Hi, this is Freezer Bunny, and this is Meteorin. I want one, so I'm gonna make one. This is from the official Sims merch. Unfortunately, I don't have the money for that, but I do have a fun fabric that I've always wanted to use for something that's also super soft. This one. Traditionally, freezer bunnies are pink, but I want one that's a little more fun. This is the pattern I made. Unfortunately, that means that there's probably not going to be space to make the back and front out of this freezer bunny, but that's okay because I have a lot of other fabrics. I found this fabric, which is ever so slightly stained, but that doesn't matter. The eyes are going to be made of an old bedsheet I had laying around, and these buttons, which happen to be the perfect size. The freezer bunny's eyes are slightly off. One is slightly bigger than the other. If you look at the reference picture I have, the ears and the cheeks are sort of made of the same material, the same color. So instead, I am going to use this piece of felt that I found that I think is going to work well as both blush and ears. I'm also going to add an extra layer to these eyes because they are very see-through, and this is a very colorful pattern. And especially on the darker colors, like the blue, you can very easily see the color behind it, and I just don't want that. I want the eyes to be whiter. I wish I had white felt, but I really only have the sheet, so that's what I'll be using. Now all I have to do is sew the lining to the front and back piece. I am now going to loosely measure how long the outline is going to be. Loosely is very defining factor here because if I'm trying to do this precisely, I would lose my mind. The entire outline. I want the outline to be, I think, 10 centimeters thick, maybe a little smaller, maybe 8 or 9. But honestly, that depends on how much fabric I have. All the facial features that needed to be sewn on have been sewn on. I think he looks adorable. Now I only need to do his little nose and the toe beans. And originally I was going to cut out these parts and put it on there and then stitch on top of that, but I don't really feel like doing that anymore. So instead I'm just gonna draw where I want the embroidery to be, just freehand it a little and hope that it doesn't end up a mess. I do have 2 references, so if I do mess it up, that would be kind of embarrassing. This one is a little longer. The mouth is a little longer, and this one's like a really ooh-woo. I think I want something like that. I don't know if you can see this yellow on camera, but you can barely see it in real life either. That's why I chose it. This is a fabric marker, so it won't wash off, but that's okay because I'm going over it with embroidery anyway. I'm just gonna start with the toes because they are going to be the easiest. I have learned a lot from this project, and it's not even done, so imagine what my final conclusion is going to be. But one thing that I have learned is that I need to plan beforehand. I had a plan, but it kept changing and it was just kind of vague. I think it would have been better if I had actually written out all the steps that I planned on doing
in the order that I wanted them to be done, because then I wouldn't get lost as often as I did. Another thing is that I will use my sewing machine faster next time. I was committed to hand stitching the entire thing like this in the beginning, but I quickly decided against that when I realized that that was going to take a really long time. I do still like the hand stitch look, like around the eyes in the front, but I'm glad I did the back and everything with the machine, because this would have taken so much longer otherwise. Another thing I've learned is to take breaks and take my body seriously, because if I had just been okay with not working on this project for a little while, I wouldn't have made as many mistakes. I would have also probably realized that I was sick a little earlier. I'm still sick, but a lot less. I know that I just said that I'm gonna use the machine a lot more often, but I am still gonna hand stitch the back to the front, because machine is faster, but it is not necessarily neater. Oh, another thing. This is another thing that I just remembered that I wanted to do. I want to stitch a little purple M for Meteorin in the back as a little thing to show that I made it for the channel. I think that'd be cute. Which I would have already done if I had written it down. So next video I'll actually have a plan to follow, hopefully. And if I don't, then, remind me. That is one done. I'm gonna do the rest off camera. The front is now officially done, so is the back. Now that all that remains is actually combining the two pieces. But that all starts off with pinning it together again. I don't quite understand how this happened, but so this ear is a box, as it should be, but this ear is not. So I'm just gonna undo this and redo it and hope that I find out what was wrong so I can fix it on the second try. It seems that the ears on the back are just a lot shorter than the ears on the front, which isn't that big of a problem. I can just fix that by stitching tighter. If I line it up here, then I know that this is where that should be. Perhaps I'll have a little fold there. I just need to stitch it. Yeah, this part is just too short. That's too bad. I can easily fix that by just grabbing a bit of fabric and cutting a square and inserting that here. But I think that I'll do that when the whole plush is done and insert it afterwards. I do have to say, this is getting me real excited for what it'll look like when it's actually finished. So for some reason, the lining was too short. Well, for some reason, I know that it was too short. It was already too short here, so it makes sense that it was also going to be too short here. But that is okay, because I have just given him a big gash in the face. I'm going to stitch up the side. Then I'm going to use a ladder stitch to stitch this up. Once again, just like this. Now that all the stitching on the sides is done, it is finally time to turn this bad boy inside out. We got 3 holes to do it through, but I'm just going to do it through here because that's what I left it for, and also to put stuffing in later. So we grab an ear and we pull. This is a magical moment, guys. I know it doesn't look like much, but I promise you this is gonna look good in a little while. There it is. Okay, so it is not done yet, so I do not want to hear anything about it being ugly, and it's ugly right now, okay? Give it a few seconds. Oh, I love him. Ah. Oh, and I'm happy with how I did that. That's a nice, I can totally do that. Best part of the ladder stitch is obviously closing it up. I'm happy with that. That looks a little wonky, but I wasn't expecting perfection anyway. I think it looks cute. Now that I've fixed this as well as I could, it is time to do something about this situation. I could stitch the ears together, but it would get rid of the iconic shape of the two separate ears. So I'd rather not do that. Instead, I'm going to cut out a little square from this fabric and just sew it in there. Or maybe even this fabric. I'm going to have to turn him inside out again. I'm gonna stitch it with white to match the stitching I did to sew the lining to the outside.
Now that the shape of the bunny has been achieved, it is time to fill him. I'm going to fill him with all the leftover scraps that I made. This isn't a lot. I'm first going to cut it into smaller pieces so it gets a little softer, and then I'm going to use the rest of my scrap bag, which is over there. Now, these are all the scraps I'm going to use to fill up the bunny. Let's get started. Now that he's all sewn up and all the holes are shut, he is done. Hi, this is set up kind of awkwardly because I just wanted to get this video done so I can move on to my next project, but here he is. I ended up stitching the little M like I said I would. He is the perfect size for hugging. I love him a lot. He's going to live next to all my other handmade plushies, and yeah. If you liked seeing me make this and you want more of it, make sure to do all that good stuff, liking and subscribing, commenting maybe, and I'll see you with my next project. Bye! Oh my god, it's him! The freezer bunny!